Okay, you know when you start overthinking about things that happened in the past, like, oh my God, why didn't I do this? I should have done that. If I'd have done this, would this have played out different? Or you're like, wonder what's gonna happen if I do this. If I do this, will this happen? Or what if this scenario happens? So it's back stuff and forward stuff. So today, we're gonna talk about obsessive thinking. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's your girl, Lori. If you are new here, I am an alternative therapist, so I work a lot with anxiety, depression, overthinking, a lot of mental health stuff, as well as a person who also has struggled and still struggles with it as well. So if that's something that you're interested in, please consider hitting the bell in the corner for notifications, subscribing. You'll get notified every time I post. So let's talk a little bit about obsessive thinking. So what is obsessive thinking? Again, we're all gonna overthink from time to time. So let's be very clear on that. Like, you're not gonna ever just be like, okay, not overthinking. No, that's not really how that works. So, but when it gets debilitating, it's when we start overthinking on steroids, kind of. That's where it kind of goes into obsessive thinking. So overthinking is different than obsessive thinking. It just is. And I'll do that in another video, another comparison as to like how you can kind of differentiate and tell. So we have found that a lot of times, well, all of the time, it's always linked to something. So your past rumination, your past thinking of something is going to be usually attached to like a depression, because rumination is old stuff that you're constantly thinking about. That's usually attached to depression. Forward thinking, overthinking about what's going to happen, obsessively thinking about what's going to happen, that's linked to anxiety. Now, don't get that twisted that you can only have one. No, you can hit the lottery and have both. Okay, so what is a person to do, right? Like, great, I'm an obsessive thinker. So it is contributed a lot with anxiety. And you'll also find that when you are struggling with that, it can be debilitating for not just you, but your relationships, those around you, because it can almost take on its own life, right? Because if you're thinking about what could happen, like let's say somebody's late from work or something like that, and you're really thinking about it and you already have them out doing something that they're not supposed to do, when they walk in the door, it's gonna be a thing. You're gonna be like, where were you? You're gonna be like, no, you weren't. They're gonna be like, yeah, I was like at a light, like there was traffic. Yeah, sure there was. And so it can actually take on and breed its whole life into changing up your relationships. So it's about addressing it. So how do we address it, right? Because the key is to know that you're not just gonna get over it. Everybody wants to get over it. Everybody wants to just get over it, not think about it, not worry about it, just boom, get over it. Yeah, it's not that easy. So first we have to attach what it is. We have to find the roots. I say plural because it is typically, it's not just one situation. So a lot of times with past stuff, it's gonna be a form when you're obsessively thinking about the things you could have done. It's actually a form of self-hatred or self-sabotage where you're like, I'm just not quite good enough. Why did I do that? Like those are all normal habits to think about, but when you obsess on it, that's when it gets and takes on its own world of itself. And so that's really where you want to go, okay, what am I worried about with myself? Do I feel like I'm good enough? Okay, well, maybe I don't feel like I'm good enough. Where would that have come from? No, maybe it came from when mom said I wasn't. You know, I'm just using that as a example, where going forward, thinking about all of those things and all of those concerns is more like the fear of not being in control, the fear of what if I don't know how to respond to this? And it's usually, you're not usually overthinking like, man, when I hit the lottery, gosh, I'm not gonna know what to do with that money. Like, no. You're typically associating it with something very negative. So keep in mind, that's also your mindset and the way that you're thinking. So what do I recommend in that? All right, you ready? It's gonna be all about writing stuff down. That's gonna be a theme with me. So just keep in mind that if you're on this channel, that's what's gonna be, a lot of writing stuff down. So here's the thing. I have a notebook, and I try to make it pretty, right? So if you're a man, you don't have to make it pretty. You can just get a basic spiral notebook. But I try to write down sort of my task list, to-do list in a totally separate thing, okay? Boom. Then I also have a planner. In this planner, I separate out each day. What's each day gonna look like? What are my important things that I need to attack, which is going to be a whole other thing on procrastination. We'll get into that later. But on top of everything, I have a 5-subject spiral notebook. In that 5-subject spiral notebook, a lot of what you're processing and need to process is overwhelm. Okay, so you're trying to process it all up here and you're trying to control it. It's getting it down in paper. So you get a five subject spiral notebook. Okay, in that first section, now mind you, this is where you're putting down kind of a to-do list. So don't do that on your other thing. In your spiral notebook, you're gonna put down your overall goals. Just write them down. We're gonna prioritize them later, just write them down. In the second section, you're going to write down all of your positive stuff. Use it as like a little journal, positive journal, happy journal, which you can always get a separate journal for that too. But don't put your positive and negatives in the same journal, because then you're just dumping all of the chaos from here into a piece of paper or a book. Don't do that. So the third section is going to be where all of your negative thoughts go, all of your worries, all of your ruminations, all of your concerns about what could happen. Put them all down. It's not about breathing life into them. You're not breathing life into them. Even if you don't actually put them down in paper, you're still breathing them into existence. So don't panic about that, because a lot of people worry about putting down negative stuff because they're afraid it's going to breathe it into existence. It's also what you have up here. So just because you write it down doesn't mean that all of a sudden it's not gonna manifest itself. The fourth section is where you're going to take the things that you prioritize, take the top 3 or 5 things and start writing down. It's not going to be on one page. It's going to be in a section. Writing down how you're going to get to that. So let's say your first one was like lose weight or get in shape, whatever. Great, lovely. But how are you going to do that? And then it's about putting down a plan so it doesn't look as stressed. It helps with your procrastination. The fifth section is going to be a doodle pad. I like to get colored pencils. These are mine. These are my personal color pencils. And I write different sections in different colors. So, because your brain works on color. But now, when you're going into the negative side of it, make sure that you have that spot where you're worried about things. Because what we're going to do is we're going to be able to get you to the place of understanding the root. When we get to the root, then we can address it. In addressing it, it makes the overthinking and obsessive thinking over here and over here start to dissipate. So yeah, so I'm gonna leave you with that today. But yes, it's a start, and just know you're never gonna stop obsessive thinking overnight. It's not gonna be something you just get over. It is gonna have to be something that you get through. So if you're struggling with that right now, let me know in the comments. Love you guys. Look forward to talking to you again.